Wanna talk? So let's talk. Yeah. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk. You wanna
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Talk to Solomon. My co-host tonight,
Chief Steve is here.
Chief Steve Davis, former Police Chief Steve Davis, and my friend Brent Johnson.
Brent Johnson.
And I am delighted and proud and excited to introduce our guest, a lady who's been on my show in the past, over the years, one of America's greatest patriots, one of America's smartest women, one of the strongest people you'll meet outside of Mother Teresa when it comes to willpower, Phyllis Schlafly, founder of the Eagle Forum. Hi, Phyllis.
Hello, Stan. Good to join you.
Well, it's our honor, our pleasure, and thank you for taking time. I really don't know where to start, so I think I'll just start by saying you start talking and we'll listen.
Well, lots of things, big things going on. What do you want to talk about?
Well, first and foremost, on the notes it talked about the law of the sea, something that people aren't paying any attention to, another attempt by the dark forces to usurp what God gave us and what is rightfully belonging to people and wanting to give it to some international, worldwide government, which in taking care of us will, steal from us.
Well, that's right. The Law of the Sea Treaty was bad when it was presented to Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. He knew it was a giveaway of our sovereignty. And now it's come back, and Obama hasn't done anything helpful in foreign policy, so he would like to get this through. Of course, it's another UN treaty that cuts out a piece of our sovereignty and puts ourselves in the clutches of some panel of busybody foreigners who really don't like us and would like to spread our wealth around to their favorite dictators around the rest of the world. So that's what it's all about. And if we want to talk about freedom of the seas, we should depend on the U.S. Navy. They're the ones who can do the best job for us.
Couldn't agree with you more. Brent, you have a question for Phyllis?
Actually, I'd like to ask you, Phyllis, it's a pleasure to be on with you again, Brent Johnson. And I want to ask you your thoughts on the Supreme Court ruling on Obamacare and how John Roberts came out with his rationalizations and where you think it's going.
Well, it was very disappointing. I was hoping they would knock it all out as unconstitutional, and nobody really understands what Roberts' decision was and what it meant. Obama told us repeatedly that the bill was not a tax, and now the Supreme Court has declared that, yes, it is a tax. So whether it is or not, we don't like it. And I'll tell you the kind of effect it's going to have on our country. I talked to a businessman just yesterday, and he has a nice little business, a little furniture business, and he employs 48 employees. And he said, no way is he going to hire 2 more and hit that 50 employee threshold, which causes him to come in for all of these regulations that Obamacare will require. And this shows how it's going to hurt jobs. If every small businessman can't hire 2 more people without feeling hurt by it, it's a bad deal.
And don't you think
terribly expensive? And I hope that every Republican who's running for office this year will absolutely pledge and guarantee that he will move to repeal it just as soon as he gets into office.
I agree, Phyllis. And don't you believe that once they get the camel's nose under the tent, they'll drop from 50 to 25 and eventually mandate that everyone other than those that are one-person shops have this?
Yes, I do. And you heard the governors who don't want to go along with this Medicare proposal that's in it. And I think Obamacare says, oh, don't worry about adding millions more people to Medicare because the federal government's going to pay for it. And the governors know that after a couple of years, the federal government will say, well, we're not going to pay for it anymore. You pay for it.
There's something called a track record, and it's
Yeah.
all bad. Chief Steve, you have a question for Phyllis?
Yes, and first of all, I'm honored to be on this program with you, but my interest is with the conservative women. I've been involved in politics a long time, and I've said for the last several years that I believe our biggest hope right now is conservative women. They seem to have more guts and more stamina than the conservative men. So I'd like to ask you, what do you think is the problem with conservative men, and what should we say or do for them to get them to hitch their pants up and act like men and act like conservatives and get the job done?
Well, you've got to realize that there are certain forces in our society that are trying to oppose men, oppose marriage, oppose anything that's masculine, and that's the feminist movement. And it's been a disaster. They've been telling men that they're not necessary, they're not needed, get lost, women can have babies without you, and they can take the jobs away from you. And it's just very unfortunate. And the result is that, of course, if a woman has babies and she doesn't have a husband to help her pay the bills, that simply means that she's going to look to Big Brother government to pay the cost. And more people become dependent on government. Yes, we need the men to understand that the feminist movement is their enemy, and I would urge them to take a look at my latest book, which is The Flip Side of Feminism, What Conservative Women Know and Men Can't Say.
Well, I think that's well said. Let me ask you specifically about this upcoming election. You're more politically astute than most people in this country. The latest poll shows Romney ahead in all 15 swing states among likely voters, and then even among registered voters, it's within the margin of error. And of course, Barack Obama's going around sending out multiple emails every day saying, the Republicans are going to outspend us, even though he has spent almost all of his time raising money. Your thoughts?
Well, I can't predict what's going to happen. I'm glad I didn't do any prediction about the Supreme Court decision on Obamacare. But I'm urging everybody to round up the votes to defeat Obama. I just don't think our country can stand another 4 years of what he's doing to the country. And if you go on my website, eagleforum.org, you will find a reference and an article about the memo that was released by nine attorneys general of 9 states, cataloging 21 illegal things that Obama has done. And we've never had a president doing so many more illegal things. And his deciding he's not going to enforce the immigration laws, but he's going to give amnesty to all the young illegal aliens is just another example of that.
And not to mention he's not going to defend the Defense of Marriage Act, which
That's
is in
correct.
essence his sworn duty.
And that's so important because the American people have shown what they want about marriage, and 31 states have put marriage in their constitution. But if we get rid of DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, that will override them all, and we can't afford to let that happen.
Now, well, first, Brent, you have a comment or question?
Yes, I actually have a follow-up to my original question on Obamacare. Joshua Hawley, who is an associate professor of law at the University of Missouri, also is a former law clerk of John Roberts, Jr., Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He published a commentary in which he speculated, and he said this is just guesswork on his part, but he knows the Chief Justice. He speculated that the ruling had something to do with politics, not politics as we understand it, but constitutional politics, rather than bring forth a constitutional confrontation with the government, that what Roberts was doing was putting it back in the hands of the people. Since it's a tax, since he says it's a tax, therefore, it makes it easier to repeal if enough of you and your representatives will go out there and do it. Do you lend any credence to that perspective, and do you think that it is viable that at the very least the mandatory provision of Obamacare could be repealed if Obama does not get back to the White House?
Well, I think I certainly think it is unconstitutional, and that it must be repealed. But we do have to have a Republican House, Senate, and President to sign the bill. And if Obama is reelected, I guess we will not get rid of Obamacare. And so I think it's terribly important. I think it should be a major issue in the election coming up. The majority of the American people are against it. And it is such an incredible takeover of our lives and our money and everything that we do. You know, there's been a lot of laughing about if this is approved, then the government could make us all eat broccoli. Well, that's supposed to be a joke, but the government can make us do all kinds of things if this stays on the books.
Let's follow up on that, because the reality is that for the first time in history, a tax, we'll just assume the Supreme Court ruling holds, a tax was passed that you will be taxed if you don't do something. In the past, you've been taxed if you earned something, if you violated a law, but now they're saying that anything the government wants you to do, it can't force you to do it, and this is important, but it can charge you a tax if you don't.
That's
so
right.
if you don't, whatever, eat broccoli, that the government has the power to say, all right, if you don't eat broccoli, you don't have to eat broccoli, but we can charge you $1, $100, $1,000, or $1 million.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's what it means. And I don't think that's the kind of America we want to live in. We want to be the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Well, it means that the government...
We do not want government dictating everything about our lives.
And that's just where I was going. It means that the government literally is empowered to mandate, like, there's a story that we're going to talk about tonight later with Alan Keyes, and I know you're a big fan of Alan Keyes. But anyway, in China, now most people don't know this, if they find out that a woman is pregnant, they have a quote-unquote one-child policy. But if you can pay the tax, the fine, they let you keep the child. If you can't pay the tax, the fine, they force you to kill the child. What would stop the United States from having exactly the same rule? You're only allowed to have one child, and unless you can pay the tax, the fine, they'll kill the child.
Well, that's the way China is, and we just don't want that kind of a country here. We don't want to take any chances on that type of a country here. We want freedom to live our lives the way we want to. And Obama is also trying to interfere with our religious liberty by forcing all employers to do things that violate their conscience and pay for them. And we don't want to let them do that. It's just so overreaching. I think there was an author, there have been a lot of books on Obama, but I think the one by Stanley Kurtz was terribly important because he investigated what went on during the unknown years when Obama was at Columbia University. And one of the things he did was to go to a Socialist Workers' Party convention where this Frances Fox Piven was the main speaker. And her theory was they should load so many people on welfare and on dependent on government that it breaks the whole private enterprise system. And I honestly think that's what he's trying to do.
Yeah, I think it was a Fox-Piven theory, and that is you overload the system to the point it cannot sustain itself, and then from that chaos, sounds like Manson, helter-skelter, you create a new order. Is that close?
That's right. That's exactly right. And I think that's exactly what he was doing. And Obamacare takes over so much of our society that it puts us on the way to that. And we already have 47% of the American people who are dependent for their living expenses in whole or in part on handouts from the government.
Right. There's another story out today about people on federal disability have gone from 1 in 35 to 1 in 16. And at the rate that is going, you know, just like Social Security, we went from, you know, 50 people supporting one retired to where now it's 3 people supporting one retired in the not so distant future. And obviously that will collapse of its own weight.
That's right, and they won't face up to it. But we just have to cut the spending. The spending has increased so much under Obama, and this is hanging an albatross around the necks of our children and grandchildren, and it's going to end up like Europe. Look at Europe, and we see a picture of us a few years hence.
Yeah, hopefully years and not days. Chief?
Well, one thing that Phyllis said, she said, we don't want this, which is not really true because there are a lot of people in this country that do want this, like Obama wants this. And they really want, like you mentioned, Stan, the chaos and the helter-skelter, and they want this to happen. And so I want to just emphasize that this is not a debate. This is an actual war that we must get involved in a fight. And unless we use tactics like the left does, we're not going to win this war. We cannot take this like it's a debate in college and nobody really loses. We're losing everything. We must fight back to get this back on the right side.
That's right. You said it very well.
Brent?
And we
Yes,
simply
I
have to cut
think
the spending.
Yep. Yes, I think what Steve just said is actually very right on. We are in a war, but it's not a war between Republicans and Democrats. It's a war to preserve our independence, regardless of whether Republicans or Democrats are in office. And it's Independence Day. It's a good time to discuss this. Phyllis, I'm curious. If you look back a few years, you'll see when Bush II was in office, he had a Republican House and a Republican Senate, and his cronies violated the Constitution, went to war without congressional approval, and did all kinds of things that essentially cost the lives and fortunes of hundreds of thousands of people around the world. Then Obama came in, and he had a Democrat House, and he had a Democrat Senate, and he went out and went even further than Bush. And well, you know, we all know what he's done and what he continues to do. Now, I agree with you that we probably need to have a Republican White House and a Republican House and Senate in order to repeal Obamacare. However, if we have that, what is to stop the same pattern? When one party is in the White House and both houses of Congress, there seems to be a pattern of violent abuse of the Constitution and overreaching. In the case of the Democrats, it's communistic. In the case of the Republicans, at least Bush and Cheney, it tended to be more fascistic. What do you think will happen if Romney gets in and has a Republican House and a Republican Senate?
Well, I think it'll put crimps on what Obama is doing. It's certainly not perfect, and I agree with you that that Bush too was trying to give us a new world order. He was trying to integrate us with Canada and Mexico, but Obama's designs are even more far-reaching. A North American Union was not enough for him. He wants us all to be citizens of the world. And when he talked about spreading the wealth around, he wasn't just talking about spreading it from taxpayers to non-taxpayers. He was talking about spreading it to other countries of the world, because there are just so many other people who hate and envy us because they think it's so unfair that we have so much wealth in this country, but we've worked for it. Other countries don't work the way we do, and if they want what we have, they should copy our system, not try to steal it from us. And it's electricity and energy that has enabled our country to have this standard of living. You know, Stan, a couple of weeks ago, I saw a picture in the New York Times of what it's like for women in Africa, and here's this woman who was doing her laundry in the river. Now, I'm not sure where you live, but I live around some wonderful rivers. But I do not want to do my laundry in the river. I like my washing machine and dryer and all the good things that electricity and the standard of living has brought us in America. And I think we're entitled to it. We worked for it. And Obama is trying to level us down to the rest of the world, and we shouldn't let him do it.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. And the reality is that doing your laundry in the river is not something that helps it's something that hurts. Not just hurt the woman doing the actual work, but it hurts the river and all the things that allegedly the left is interested in. And America is one of three things. It's either the balloon picking up the world like a gondola and raising it to new heights. It's like the ship that is there while everyone else is in the water and you can take so many people, but if it takes too many people, it sinks. Or it's already sinking and eliminating hope for the rest of the world. Obama and his ilk, people on the left, the godless, want the world to be without hope, because a world without hope turns to whom? Whoever has something.
It turns to the government, and we don't want the government dictating our lives.
There you are. Absolutely
and so
true.
I would urge your listeners to go to my website, eagleforum.org, where I've got all kinds of information on these topics we've been talking about. And I would also urge you to tell your senators, vote no on any of these UN treaties, starting with the Law of the Sea Treaty, because we don't want some kind of council of people, of bureaucrats who hate us in some faraway country telling us what to do.
Well, there's no ifs, ands, or buts that liberalism, leftism, socialism, communism, Marxism, statism, whatever term you want to use, is a screw usism. And that's the bottom line.
That's right.
Phyllis Schlafly, it's an honor. Wonderful to hear from you and hear you sounding so great. Eagleforum.org.
Right.
And I recommend everyone go there. We'll put a link on our website. And you know, God bless you and keep up the good work.
Okay. God bless you. Have a great 4th of July.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
God bless you, Phyllis. Happy Independence Day.
Yes, happy Independence Day. We are still independent.
You got that right. And as Charlton Heston once said, they can take my gun from me one bullet at a time. Y'all come down and see me. Good night, Phyllis.
And good night. Thanks.
Bye-bye. We'll be back with attorney Gary Creep in just a moment. One of the most knowledgeable lawyers and a guy who knows God, knows the Constitution, and knows right from wrong. Stay tuned. Do you have a cell phone? I do. In fact, everyone I know does. There's only one problem with cell phones. They're too damn high. You remember that guy. With me is Ted Williams, one of America's experts on cell phones, and a guy who's been responsible, along with his company, for hundreds of thousands of people saving money on cell phones. Ted, thank you for joining us. Talk to us.
Well, I tell you, Stan, right now, every dollar a person can save is a dollar earned. I'm telling you, in this economy, the price of gas and the unsure situation with employment, our business is tailor-made, and our cell phone packages are tailor-made to help everyone out.
All right, let's state a few facts. Unlimited service isn't unlimited service anymore, right or wrong?
It's right for a lot of the big carriers that you're familiar with, but our company has got truly unlimited talk, text, and web. We don't slow speeds down. We don't charge you after 1 or 2 gigabytes. It's truly unlimited, running on a nationwide network with roaming options if people want it. And
to get unlimited service, which many people use today in their business, you're going to spend $120, $130, $140. How do you compare?
We've got plans that start at $20 with rollover minutes, and our truly unlimited talk, text, and web plan is $59 a month. Again, no limits on the data. And the exciting thing is you can earn, as a customer, you can earn free service by simply referring a few customers to us. That earns you free service potentially for the rest of your life.
Now, let me make sure I'm hearing this correctly. Without paying money, without being in the business, simply, if you're a customer, at whatever the customer costs are, and I assume there are no deposits or that type of thing, that if you refer a few friends and they get service, you can earn free service for yourself?
Absolutely. It's, as you said, no contract, no deposit, no credit check, and we have many payment options. They can be auto billed, auto debited, phone in and make your payment over the phone, or a lot of options on how to pay the bill. But truly unlimited talk, text, and web available to you for $59 a month, and if you refer a few friends, totally free.
Now, two other questions. You said roaming is an option. How much does it cost?
If you have unlimited nationwide roaming, it would be an additional $20 if you need
you're
it.
still only $79.
Correct. But you may not need it because we are on the nationwide network.
Okay. And the second thing is, do you only have dial-up phones that you have to carry in a suitcase, or do you actually have the latest and greatest Droid phones?
We have Android phones are the hottest selling items right now on our site, but we also cater to those people that all they have a need for is a simple flip phone. So you can go from the top of the line phone to a free phone.
And are you competitive on those prices?
Absolutely. The phones, most people don't realize this, but the phone prices you hear on television are tied into contracts. We don't have a contract. So our phone, you buy it, you own it, and you pay the real price. The way you can find out how competitive it is simply ask any of those big 3 or 4 companies, what is the price of the phone if I don't have to sign a contract? And they'll tell you many of those Android phones are $400.
There you go. All right, folks, you can get more information by dialing 1-800-299-8362, or just go to cpnlive.com and click on the icon that says Get Free Phone Service. Free. Free. I can afford free. Can you?
Free is good.
Thanks.